Hi everyone, welcome to We Belong Education podcast. Today, Helen, it's you and me. How are we doing?
Just the two of us. I'm
Yeah,
good. How about yourself?
good. I'm actually having a good day, maybe because of the topic that we've decided to cover. Mm.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have this thing that you know that you're going to do, and that makes you happy.
Yes.
But opposite is also true. Sometimes you know that you have to do something that you don't want to do, and you're upset already.
Yep.
So
The dread
for
all day.
yes, I've been thinking about this topic, children's
Hmm.
voices. Um,
Hmm.
as an educator myself, I've been hearing about this phenomenon called children's voices.
Hmm.
And as I've grown as an educator, my perhaps my definition of children's voices has always changed, I
Mm.
guess. Right.
Hmm.
So I want to put you on the spot
Yes, go.
and say, what is children's voices for you? Like, what constitutes children's voices? What is it?
Uh,
Maybe the question could also be what it is not. Or go on. I want to hear your definition first, or how you might explain this, and then I might try.
wow, let's start off with a super easy question here. Um, Children's voices, I think it's evolved, and what
Mhm.
I would have told you 20 years ago is definitely different to now. Often I kind of think, and actually, this thought has progressed a lot since we attended the WIRA conference last year, and I heard um, a professor by the name of David, who I can't remember his last name, but you can correct us later. He really looked at how we're documenting what children say and how we're actually using the information. So for
Mhm.
me, children's voices is also about what they're not saying.
Mhm.
Are they
Right.
communicating via behavior? Are they
Mhm.
communicating? What are their actions telling us? Because I think it's
Mhm.
really easy for us to just say, as an educator, oh, Jenny told me she loves painting, so I put it in the program and tick children's voices.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, if we're going to get deeper and really lean into that, every child and young person has the right to freely express their opinion.
Mhm. And the
Sometimes,
expression may not be verbal. I mean,
yes.
that's what I'm getting from you, like,
Yes,
because
yes, and that's it. How are we gathering that information from maybe those children that aren't as verbal? Because we all know when we go to a group of kids and say, "Hey, tell me what you think of our program," or "Give me some opinions. What should
Mhm.
we do next?" There's always those loud voices that are going to come through straight away. They're going to have 50 things they can tell you, and you're going to look great because you're going to fill up your book and you've got that evidence to say, children's voices, yay, we're doing it. But then how do we get that information? I think about this a lot, and my team will tell you we've spent many a meeting discussing this. How do you get that that voice, that
Mhm.
information from that maybe that quieter child, that shyer child, or that child who actually doesn't know how to verbally tell you what
Mhm.
it is they're thinking or feeling or they need? So, not very eloquent, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean, as you said, it's evolving. So by the end of this podcast, it might evolve more.
I'll
Um,
have the answer by the end.
yeah. Well,
So,
I
I mean,
didn't
I
tell.
think that would be my first question that I actually have for you because,
Okay.
I actually, for our listeners at home, I finally started reading through the doctor's thesis, and he does touch on this stuff. But I think when we think about Article 12 and we think about
Mm.
children being free to express their opinion, um, is that a thing? Is the non-verbal is
Mm.
taking on nonverbal, is that children's voices or are we going too far? What are your thoughts on this?
So there are few words which come up. Firstly, congratulations on reading my thesis. Everybody should do it. I'm
Tick.
just being humble about it. Not just kidding. Um, okay, so going back to the first thing that you mentioned about um, David mentioning in our WIDA conference about documentation. You said documentation. I heard representation. You
Hmm.
said something about what about those loud voices, which are, let's say you want to document a few things, you go to a group of children, you know you're going to get results from them. So you ask them questions and
Mm.
but do they represent all voices? Yeah. So
Mm.
that's number one challenge, perhaps that, hey, does this capture all we want to know. And you also ask a second question about, are we going too deep into it? Maybe we are, maybe we are not. I don't know about that. Yeah, it depends upon if you ask this question to yourself, does this represent children's voices, or does this represent a group of children's voices, the same voices which are quite well known, verbal, vocal, um, and louder, right? So that's that. So the answer, actually, I think I know what you asked me. I'm going to assume that what do we do with this? The answer to that is advocacy. We can't just be listeners to children's voices. We have to be advocate for children's voices, for you to ask this question to yourself critically. Hey, is this a true representation of children's voice? Because if you're not an advocate listening to children's voices,
Yeah.
then you're just listening to it because your boss asked you to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Advocacy actually means taking that next step. See, nobody would do critical reflection. Now, what is critical reflection? Critically thinking about whatever you have in front of you. Okay, so you're asking the question why, asking ask someone else to make sure, hey, do you reckon this is going in the right direction? Yeah. For someone to be critical, someone would have to be advocate of something that we have to stand for. So if you were to say, I stand for true representation, you would automatically ask the second question to yourself or to the person who's documenting, is this a good representation? Otherwise, you have enough data there and you move on. In my thesis also, I mentioned that although I had 600 minutes of children's data, that does not represent all children at all times. It just gives you a small frame of what happened that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I believe that, I guess, someone would have to stand up and say, I'm an advocate of that. Not I'm an educator, not I'm a parent, or not I'm someone who's listening. I'm an advocate of this phenomenon. I'm interested in this phenomenon, and I'll keep going as deep as my advocacy takes me. So the
Yeah.
answer isn't about how deep we are going. The answer lies in the listener, in the listener's perspective, perhaps, of how far is my advocacy.
Yeah.
Listening to children's voices, like, so in my answer about what constitute voice, is a good thing, but observing the behavior, things, as you said, yeah, things that have been not said yet.
We often
Even
say
if we
behavior is communication.
behavior is communication, we've heard that before. However, you will see that if children don't feel connected, so let's
Yeah.
say you mention a name, Jenny. So Helen goes to talk to Jenny about something, or Helen is observing Jenny's behavior, but Jenny knows that she's been observed by Helen. So then Jenny is not communicating now. Jenny is just sitting down, which is in itself a communication. But connection is a second one. Advocacy, connection. Because without connection, you may not actually be able to read children's voices. Listen to that. Children are always speaking. I'm not sure if, and they're always speaking their mind, they're always expressing, but I'm not sure if we are documenting it in the right manner, that we are interpreting them. So therefore, I think this thing called children voice is good to say in our philosophy. It's good to write in our critical reflection. But I would like to challenge that I don't think that we have all the tools necessary to represent them or to document them. It's just a small window of what we do, but there's so much more which is missed most of the time.
Yeah, I think if we're thinking about that connection and advocacy point, and I'm thinking about my journey as an educator, I think, back in the day, going on that whole point of behavior is communication, back in the day, I suppose my reflection point would have been, why are they misbehaving? Why do they act like this?
Yeah.
Full stop. I would have, had the general, oh, not enough consequences at home, or
Yeah,
whatever I
maybe.
would have
Yeah, yeah,
decided was the
yeah,
answer.
yeah.
Whereas now when I look at these things, I look at that child who's the naughty child, which I hate that word, but we look at that child. We all know that child. Everyone's got them in their services. Instead of thinking, why are they misbehaving? I think the first one I like to think first is, are they okay? Because
Yeah,
for the most part, often with behavior being communication, we know that there's something not right. It could just be they're bored.
yeah,
It could be something's going on at home,
yeah,
but
yeah.
and I think that's where I want to get deeper when I think it, and I speak about this with my staff a lot when I want them to really think about the whys of what are we seeing.
Mm,
Some
mm,
children don't have the words to tell you I'm not okay.
yeah, yeah.
Some kids don't have the words to say, I actually really need your help. And so I think
Mm,
to me, and this is only my interpretation, so it's fine if that's not correct.
okay.
I'm happy to be educated, but for me, really, truly advocating for children, listen, and listening to their voice, it's actually as much about the unsaid as the said.
Yeah. So let's go back to what you mentioned just then about behaviors communication. So although we've talked about behavior, and I think that there will be 10 more podcasts on behavior in
Yep.
itself,
Hmm.
but just because you touched on it, there's a little bit of response to that.
Hmm.
Children's behavior is a communication. We know that. We've talked about behavior in the past episodes, and we will continue talking about it because I think this is an endless, endless possibilities with that topic.
Yeah.
But just because you touched on it, a small response to that. When you said a child is communicating through his behavior or her behavior, and you said the first question I ask is, "Are you okay?" I think that is because of the advocacy to
Mm,
say, "I'm going to explore what are they telling me."
mm,
Now, there's a problem with that though.
mm,
You just mentioned that some children don't know what to say. I mean, they
mm,
may not be able to articulate what is going on with them. Yeah,
mm.
that's what you said.
Yes.
And but that is not just true for children. Many a times when educators are telling me the problems they are having, and when I'm listening to them, I ask more questions to them. By the end of fifth or sixth question, the problem has shifted.
Mm,
Because many a times we don't know what is guiding our thoughts, our
mm,
words. We struggle many a times to communicate what we want to say.
mm,
Imagine how hard it would be for someone who's learning language,
mm,
not just learning language, but trying to make sense of the world to then be able to use some words in a way that you will understand my inner cognition.
mm,
That is a huge task. It's because in my communication sessions, I talk about educator communicating with educators, and that takes
mm,
3 hours of
mm,
just information,
mm,
reflection, 30 years maybe. Yeah. Communication is a challenge, full stop. So when you say behavior is communication, I'm talking about communication for all of us. And I think that's a really good segue to my second question. Okay. If
mm,
children are communicating through many ways,
mhm,
behavior, verbal, non-verbal, yeah,
mhm,
through body language,
mhm.
non-verbal, what are the challenges in understanding or interpreting children's voices? What do you think? Just give me one challenge so that, although I put you on the spot, just give me one
Mm.
challenge and I'll give you a few and we'll see how we go with this.
I mean, I think the first challenge that comes to mind when you say this is if the connection's not there,
Hmm.
how, like, you need to know a child, and the more you
Yeah.
know a child, the more you understand them, and you can even get to that unsaid thing of, oh, I can see they're not doing well. Maybe I need to go suggest. Do we want to go on a bit of a walk or something?
Yeah. Hmm.
You kind of get to that point. So I think the first challenge for me with that unsaid thing, I would probably think a challenge would be just what is your connection to
Hmm.
that
Okay.
child?
I like that. So that's one. And it's still a really good point, although we mentioned connection in the past, but this is a really good challenge because connection leads to this conduit of communication. If you are connected, chances are that I don't have to tell you things. You can look at my face and you go, something's gone wrong.
Mm,
But yeah, connection building is quite crucial. And I think because we are surrounded by so many children at the same time, it may be really hard for educators or parents to form that connection. So that's perfectly. I really like that bit. One of the challenges that I think is also it's what's happening with us, the unsaid things with us. Like when I used to hear children's voices in the past,
mm,
I used to get cranky pants. I used to get angry. I used to think, what about educators' voices?
Oh.
What about my voice? What about my educator's voice? They're getting bullied day in, day out. Principals are not listening to us, or the manager is not listening to us. The parents don't respect us. What about us? Yeah. So what about us? So I had this. I was envious that there was a whole framework for children's voices, but there was no framework for educator voices. So now this anger, the rage in me, blocked whatever the child was saying. Put it
Mm.
this way. Yeah. So, what are other blockages? What are those psychological interferences coming in the way of understanding children's voices? Or how are you interpreting a child's voice? If a child has said something or has done something to communicate to you, are you actually in the right space of mind to understand it? So I think the psychological interferences that we are carrying at all times. Sometimes your assignments might be due. You had a long night. You wake up quite early in the morning.
Mm.
You are surrounded by children. You are a classroom teacher, or you are an educator in outside school care or long day care. I'm not sure if we are the space where communication can happen. And,
Mm.
and when that occurs, I see this over and over again, that there's so much going on with ourselves that we are unable to understand the child. And therefore, I often say this, and many of the times that you and I are going through our own traumas in life, put it
Mm.
this way, some which we are aware of, some we have no idea about, and therefore we
Mm.
are not even managing them. And therefore, I often say this, you're either listening to a child in front of you or the child inside of you.
Yeah, that I mean that challenge just cycling through my brain right now is a secondary challenge is um, are you aware of what bias you're bringing to this situation?
Yeah. What is it? Like, as I said, and this bias about what about educator's voice? Not what comes from me being a twin. And this is what this is what I know. All right. There's a few things that
Yeah.
I don't know, but everything had to be shared when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sharing everything. Of course, I'm hating the word sharing. Yeah.
Mm.
So this what about me has been a narrative for a long time. It's like embedded. What about me? Who's going to look at me? So when someone says, look, guys, we have this framework for children's voices, I'm like, what about educators' voices? So, so this is the bias. This is playing, this is playing a game in my head. And I'm
Mm.
approaching a child thinking, I'm going to document this. Of course, I'm not going to be an advocate for children's voices when I'm in that mood. So
Mm.
now that I'm aware of it, I have some hope to manage it, some hope to manage it, right?
Mm.
But there were days I had no idea that I was even going through that narrative. So there are so many biases or the psychological interferences or what is happening. When I say psychological interferences mean things that are in our mind, which we are not, which we can't see because they are in our mind, but they are affecting our
Mm.
engagements with others. Right. So
Mm.
I just gave an example for those who didn't know about that word. I just wanted to clarify that. So
Mm.
yeah, that's it. For me, that kind of the challenge that I mentioned kind of reinforces your challenge about connection, because if I'm biased, I'm not making connection with you. Like I don't
Mm.
care about you enough to make connection. Yeah. And so if this is a challenge, which it is,
Mm.
psychological interference is happening, connection being there or not there. Children are talking to us in many forms and ways, verbal,
Mm.
non-verbal, behavioral. Okay. There are so many things going on. So now, Helen, how do we capture it? Like, what do we do?
Mm.
Like, is there a solution to it? Or do we just thrive for it without looking for solution?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, do we have to solve it? Or do we just walk with this awareness that there is a blind spot?
So this is a really interesting one and a very, I suppose, operational answer that I'm going to give you right now.
Okay.
One project that I've been working on within my team, especially inspired by David's talk on children's parliaments at Wera,
Mm,
was how do we the I suppose the if we're doing some action research, the problem we're looking at is how do we authentically gather children's voices.
Mm,
And also part of that research that we were doing was how do we gather information from those quieter children? So we did things like
mm,
we put together what what would our minutes be?
mm-hmm,
We even did a performer which was for drawing documentation, so the children could then draw their
mm-mm.
what they thought onto a page to try and just look at how do we gather different ways of information.
Yeah.
I will say very quickly, I learnt through listening to the children's voices, I suppose, or observing their behavior is this beautiful view I had of how a children's parliament should work
Okay. Okay.
didn't initially work. I had
Okay.
to be okay with standing in the playground asking my questions as one child was up a slide and another child was up a tree.
Mm-hmm.
But like kind of, and I think that's that bias of the way I thought
Yeah.
we should have it. And I know
Mm,
I was speaking to some other educators I work with, and I was saying, she said, we already gathered children's voices. Oh, yeah, tell me about that. How do you do that? And she said,
mm,
look, see our wall right there? And
mm-hmm.
yeah, they did that, a beautiful wall with UN convention poster, the
Perfect. Yeah.
children's
Yeah.
one on. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And some little nice, bubble documents where children could write what
Okay.
they thought. And, that's great for children that can write.
Yeah. And I see the effort. I see, like,
Yeah,
I
I
would have
see
done
the
the
effort.
same. I would have said, yep, this is it. Yeah.
This is
Mm-hmm.
great. But then it also, what this project got me thinking about is how do we then authentically use the information the children are giving
Right.
us? And
So
not
second
only
step.
use it, how are we actually then reporting back to them
Mm,
that we've heard you and this is the change we've made, or this is what we've done, or
mm,
whatever it is,
right.
so that they truly felt valued. Because I also think in building that connection, if
Mm.
we get really good at kind of showing the children, look, you've shared with us,
And we are listening to you.
make change happen. But also sometimes we have to tell them, sorry, you're not
Not gonna
getting that
happen.
WWE wrestling ring. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
many times you write it on the children's voice page. It's just not happening. Yeah, I think that for me, that's an interesting one, which we're still working through, is then how do you authentically use that information, but also let the children know about how you used the information they gave you.
I like your strategy. One of the things that you're doing, I love it.
Mm,
I see stage one, gather the information
mm,
in many ways. Stage two, communicate back to them of what you're going to do with that voice,
mm,
confirming with the people who have talked to you, children themselves. The question that I go back to is how do we capture it? One of the strategies you shared. I think that we can do whatever we want to do to capture things with this consciousness that whatever we do is not going to be right. It's not going to be enough. I really want people to know this while they're capturing it, not from a cynical point of view, not from the context of, oh, what's the point if I can't capture everything? What's the point? Well, that is the point. The point is that we will never be able to capture everything there is, and that's why we keep exploring, because it's the game. That's the game, that we will find things after working with children for, when I was interviewing this particular child, it was 15 years. I had been working with children by then,
mm,
and we were playing we used to play dodgeball a lot at this particular service.
mm,
And this particular child was in year five,
mm,
and he would stand in the middle of that line, dodgeball line, and he would challenge the other people. You can't get me. You can't get me. And he was really good at catching and throwing.
mm,
So he'd catch most of the balls, and they will throw the balls, and we'll try to get the other people out.
mm.
And in my observation, I thought he was a show off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, he's just showing off his skills. So when I was once interviewing him for one of the projects I was doing, and he brought it up. And he brought it up that I love this game. And I'm like, great opportunity to ask him about this show off thing. I thought I got him. So I said to him, I asked him, hey, I see that you stand in the middle line. Tell me about your experience of that. I didn't want to say, tell me about your show off. In my mind, I had this show off bias. But I'm like, tell me about this thing. And he says, oh, yeah, I stand there because I don't want the young kids to get out. And he called them prep. In Queensland, we call
Mm,
them prep. So like, oh, young kids to get out. What do you mean by that? Tell me more about that. That's the
mm,
type of, if you want to explore phenomenon, we say, tell me more about that.
mm,
And he says, oh, yeah, because if the young kids get out, they cry and they make educators' life harder because then they have to look after those young kids. And
Yeah.
here I was, and I just thought, what do I know?
Yeah.
What do I know about children? I've got no idea what's going on over here, right? This kid that I thought was showing off was not showing off. He was actually in his own way, looking after me,
Mm,
looking after my needs and my team's need. To say,
mm,
okay, I would not get the, I would do the best I can so preps don't get out.
mm.
And here I was judging them to be a show off.
Yeah.
On that day, I left the room thinking, I don't know anything about children and children voices. And I think that awareness is what I believe is amazing, because now I say not knowing is a great possibility. If you do not know, then you look for it. If you know, you just go to confirm it. And as
Mm,
soon as you get the confirmation that you were right, you move on.
mm,
Why would you advocate and why would you become more critical of something that you already know? And you instead, when you say, I don't know what is happening, subconsciously you go, all right, then if I don't know, let's explore. So on
mm,
that day, I left that room saying, I don't know anything.
mm.
And it just has allowed me to keep exploring and be more dialogical with
Mm.
you, with my friends, with children, with other educators, to
Yeah.
go, I don't know anything. Tell me everything that you can tell me, and I'll see what I can do about that. So, therefore, don't worry about capturing the whole, just capture what you can. And there are strategies which I like the strategy of parliament that you mentioned. And David's work is really good on that.
Mm.
Passing the
But
bill,
no, I
confirming.
think there's
Mm,
something to be said. I mean, we've spoken about this before, but like we know as educators, we're supposed to critically reflect.
yeah.
And the fact that I don't think in our time we're never going to fully understand or know or, how to gather that 100% gamut of all children's voices.
Hmm.
I mean, I think we will definitely get better, but it's going to continue to evolve. But that's that whole thing
Mm,
again. We say all the time, when you know better, you do better. And this is
mm,
why I
mm.
love testing things out, because you know what? Sometimes we have those days we're like, well, that didn't work. Whereas other days, like, oh, that was really good. I got some really good feedback from that. And just that being open, I think as an educator, being open to fail and
Mm,
being fine with failing is just such a good tool in your toolbox,
yeah.
because
Mm.
you learn so much from it.
And I hope that leaders who are listening to this allow that to happen.
Mm,
I think educators many a times associate failure with incompetency.
mm,
And it's not their story, it's the story which has been told to them that if you fail, you might not get the job, the promotion, the shifts, whatever that may be.
mm,
And But failing means you're playing. Yeah, failing means that you tried. Like it's easy to say, but none of us want to fail. But
mm.
it's just we can talk about philosophy more. We've already got a podcast on that, but we can keep talking about this philosophy. But going back to this children's voices and how to capture it, I think we can't capture it. We can only attempt to capture certain parts of it, and that's the game. Keep
Yeah.
collecting as much data as possible, because if you think that you've collected it and you're moving on with it, then there's a blind spot. We haven't.
Mm,
So if anybody comes to your service and say, well, what have you captured? Like, oh, this is the part of children voices that we've captured. We don't know everything, but this is what the tools we have, the knowledge that we have, or the way, or the circumstances under which this data was collected was this, and these are the limitations.
mm.
We should know about the limitations in which we are collecting that data or understanding the children voices. I thought about one more thing as we are talking.
Mm.
Mm. And maybe because I'm angry at it.
Oh,
Um,
do tell.
it's that's why we did this podcast, right? So we can complain about things.
So I can complain. Okay.
Those who are done with us, you can stop and move on, do something else. I'm just gonna rant about something. So uh, if you want to keep listening at your own risk.
Oh no.
Okay, this is ideological differences,
Hmm.
which comes in the way of our communication at all times.
Mm,
One of the ways people listen to children is through categorization.
Mm.
Because they believe in psychology so much. They've looked at the brain scans and they've listened to 5 TED Talks. And they've listened to
Mm.
3 conferences which were talking about brain,
Mm.
which I think is a clickbait. If you want to
Oh,
sell your product, have a photo of a brain, people will buy it. Right.
okay.
So, I mean, my slide number 20th to 27th is brain. So I do talk about brain too.
You love
But,
clickbait.
but it's slide 20 because people forget psychology cannot be seen in absence of sociology.
Mm.
A human is not a computer. That's a very old form of looking at humans.
Mm-hmm.
Where there is human, there is possibility. What I mean by that, let me circle back to it. We think if we do this, this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
this would come because there was a study on brain scan. Not true though, because we also have to look at in what society it is occurring. So, for example, same child, a
Mm-hmm.
child who has ADHD or any other diagnosis that you want to give on a Monday acts differently at your school, yeah, or service. But when we change the school of the service, the child acts differently. Why? Did the
Mm.
brain change? No, it didn't. The society changed. When we try to answer sociological problems through psychology, we are unable to answer them because brain scans are not going to give you all the results that you want. You have to also look at where the child is at, who he's surrounded by. If on Monday the same child acts differently, but on Tuesday the child acts differently, that is a form of communication. Read it. See, on Monday he didn't have his friend. On Tuesday he has his friend. When the
Mm.
friends come together, they say, "Hey," and they understand each other and they go, let's break those Legos. But on Monday, he didn't have a friend. So he was trying to get access to other people's games. So he was nice to them to say, "Hey, can I play handball with you?" He was nice to them because he didn't have anyone. On Tuesday, his friend comes along and they're breaking the same handball game. So what happened to the diagnosis? And the other friend who has just come in has no diagnosis. Okay. As the society changes, psychology changes. Okay. Psychology cannot be, so you cannot solve social problems just from understanding it's an interplay between psychology and sociology. Now, why did I say that in understanding children's voices? So I'll
Please
come
tell
back to
me.
it. When you're listening to a child but you already think this kid is ADHD, you're going to
Mm.
listen to the child differently.
Mm.
And if you've heard the child on Monday, you think that is what the child is on Tuesday also. No, it's not.
Yeah.
On Tuesday the child is different.
Mm-hmm.
We have to gather the data again. We have to ask the same question again and you'll get the different answers.
Mm.
Same question, different. And you have seen that. You've experienced that. On Friday, you ask children, "Hey, what do you want to do for next week?" And they tell you what do you want to do for the next week. On Monday, you've organized all those activities and children don't want to do it. So
Mm.
what happened? Did children change? No. Monday changed. Things changed.
Mm.
Weather changed. Climate changed. So behavior shifted. It's not a computer that, "Oh, I can determine if I do this to you 3 times, then you will do this." That is how we treat animals, not humans. We have to
Mm.
move on from, we have to appreciate what psychology brings, but we can't just rely solely on psychology to answer some of the other things because there are so many other factors and forces at play. Rant over.
Wow. I That's a great reflection, I think, for some educators, and anybody listening to us.
All the psychologists are going to hate me now, but that's
Um,
okay.
wow. We're going deep today. Well, one, I hope so, that all psychologists don't hate you, but I also hope that they have understanding that possibly you are looking at it from two separate lenses,
Yeah.
which I suppose is what we're considering, or what
Mm.
we're hoping educators may also do, is trying to look at it from two different lenses.
Or maybe more. Look, I'm just gonna say this because in case you think that I'm demeaning. Oh, absolutely not. As I said, from slide number 20 onwards, I talk about psychology. It's an
Mm-hmm.
important science, but it's a part of science. We've
Mm.
got sociology going on,
Mm-hmm.
which we don't talk about, unfortunately. So we'll say it again. We've got sociology going on, which we don't talk
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about psychology a lot.
Mm.
Okay, but that doesn't answer all the questions, and neither does sociology answer all the questions, by the way. We need
Mm.
the interplay between both sciences. But
Mm.
then we also have philosophy, we
Mm.
also have spirituality, We've got so many ways to read someone's voice. And that's what I'm saying. One of the challenges is what bias are you bringing in? On
Mm,
Monday, the data is different. On Tuesday, the data is different because humans are impacted by so many factors. Some we know,
mm,
some we don't. And
mm,
not one science can capture it all. So it was more about the inclination that we have just towards one science. And I think we run the risk of not capturing all that is happening.
mm.
And now that I've said what I wanted to say, we can move on to the second thought, the last thing for the day.
Oh,
With
I
your
thought,
permission, Helen.
well, maybe we can just bring it back down to a service level, and I
Hmm.
mean, not that that wasn't service level, but
Yeah.
that was higher forms of thinking, which is a lot for this
No, I
time
mean,
of the
at
evening.
service level, on
Uh,
Monday, results are different, and on Tuesday, results are different at your service level. Hmm.
okay,
Okay.
sorry, I just
I'm in a
started
good
him
mood.
again.
Hey, I'm in a really
Um,
good mood. Okay, go
I
ahead.
would like to maybe just touch on from a service level, early years, USH, in your classroom, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Um, we've kind of talked about gathering children's voices. How do we do that? You know, we talked
Hmm.
about verbal, non-verbal, but I kind of want to just touch on
Hmm.
what are we doing with them? Are we
Hmm.
using them? Like, because what is the point? You can
Yeah,
have a
well,
book full of, pages. On Monday we gathered
yeah.
children's voices on afternoon tea, and on this day it was lunch, and on this day it
Hmm.
was vacation care, or whatever, our transition to school program, whatever it is. We could
Hmm.
have pages and pages of documents,
Yeah. What's the
of
point?
information. And I really want to know about, how we're using it, because I think it may have been our friend Barbie who told me this. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was. She told me that she knew of a service that they always had once they'd got through a few stages of interviewing, they always had a child on the
Oh,
interview
yeah,
panel.
yeah, it was Bobby.
And if the child said no, that was it. We're not moving forward with that person. And well, I think when I first heard that information, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, especially we know
What if the
sector-wide,
child is having a bad day?
but
No
also
hope at all. Yeah.
sector-wide shortages. I really need that staff member.
Oh,
But
damn. That's,
then I got to thinking about, wow,
yeah,
that's a really
bad
beautiful
luck for you.
way
Hey.
to honor that child's voice
Hmm.
and actually really authentically use that
Hmm.
information of,
Yeah.
we're giving that child a voice, and therefore we're going to take it seriously. I've seen some beautiful early years. I can't think of what service it is, so if it was yours, I apologize. They had children help with their policies.
Okay.
Actually drew
Hmm.
some pictures, kind
Hmm.
of, so it explained to other children what that policy was about.
Okay. So,
Uh, so really having children be
hmm.
involved in like in the formations of
Yeah.
policies, but also considering then also how is that information disseminated within their cohort. So I think I
So,
wanted to just touch on that, how
how do we use it?
how are we using it?
But
Yeah.
before we go, how do we use it? There is a question that you have touched, and I need to like I can't respond to how until I've done this because I'm in a good mood today.
Oh, okay, great.
Why are we collecting it? You've mentioned it. That's
Mm,
what gives you the answer to how do we use it. If we are collecting it to look good, then you don't have to be an advocate. You don't have to have connection. Just get those same three children again and write down whatever you want to write down. Okay. So
mhm,
why are we collecting it? Not to look good necessarily. I mean, it makes you look good, but I want educators to just pause here and think, why are we using children's voices?
mm,
Why do we want that? And here's a quick answer to that. In a room where only my opinions exist and yours don't, then you don't exist. Okay. We,
mm,
even this podcast is dialogical. I say something, you say something, and we are honoring each other's words, and we are building this podcast based on what
mm,
you're saying, what I'm saying.
mm,
Yeah. If I was sitting here alone, the podcast would have finished by now
mm,
and it would have been really boring also. Yeah. But we are having this connection where you say something, I say something, and we are building upon it.
mm,
Children, how do you perceive children? Children in a care or in our school are active participants and are social actors which have the capacity, social agents which have the capacity
Mm.
to change society. Not psychology yet, society. They are more in number. Have you checked that? 3 educators, 45 children. 3 educators, 25 children. 1 teacher, 24 children. They are social agents. If you perceive them as social agents, then it becomes our responsibility to see what those social agents want to see this society manifest.
Mm.
What do they want from this? Or does it need to look like me because I'm biologically older than you?
Mm.
That's why we collect information. We don't collect to look good. We collect to honor social agency.
Mm.
The social actors are right in front of us. Now
Mm.
that we've collected it, why? Because we wanted to see if the society shifts. Theoretically, we call it post-structuralism, but we are not going to go into that. Maybe we should record a whole podcast on theories and practices. But we call it post-structuralism, where the structure changes because the people of that society change something or wanted
Mm.
something to change. Now, you said that we will change, we will hire a staff member, not hire a staff member, we'll change this, we'll change that, we'll change the policy. That is an automatic change in society, the way society is going to function. See, we are talking so much of society, and therefore we need to honor sociology. Children are active social agents right in front of us. They have
Mm.
an opinion and a voice which can be captured through many ways. We will not be able to capture everything there is to capture, but we do what we can do to understand verbal and nonverbal behavioral voices to capture, so that if or as the society needs shifting in which these people are more in number, then the society will shift because we've heard it, and the changes that we had to make, we are making in consultation with those social agents, the
Mm.
active social agents, also known as children. And you and I of that society are also social agents. So we are negotiating, we are not accepting, we are not dominating. When people say, oh, child-led means educators don't have a power. No, no, no. Child-led means children are leading it. You are still a participant of that. Just
Mm.
like you would have led an activity or a learning experience, and children are participants of that.
Mm.
You and I in a given society are social agents, educators, teachers,
Mm.
plus children. We listen to each other's voices, we negotiate, and we recreate policies, also theoretically known as post structuralism, because you're changing the structure. We're not just accepting the structure, otherwise, there will be no evolution. As you pointed out at the beginning, that your definition has evolved. Evolution is why we are listening to children's voices.
Mm. A challenge I think I would like to put out there for people that are listening to us,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there are lots that are listening to us that possibly already do this, but I
Mm.
challenge educators also that once you are open to
Mm.
hearing children's voices, your job actually gets easier.
Yeah.
And that be open, sorry, not just be open to hearing the children's voices, but be open also to what bias I have.
Mm.
Like I'll give a simple example. Back in my day, afternoon tea was from say 3:15 till 3:45, and that was it. It was packed up and then it was done. But
Mhm.
then the children would come in at 4 and say, "Hey, Helen, we want some fruit," and old Helen would be like, "Well, no, afternoon tea time is finished."
Yeah.
And then, we'd sometimes
Yeah.
see some behaviors because hangry is a real thing.
Mm.
And I think once I the more I learned and the more I just, I suppose, observed, listened to what the children were saying, you know, not that apples after 4 o'clock made my life easier, but sorry, it solved all of my life's problems. But it was just interesting in that
Mm.
whole, I think that's that thing. It's not just children's voices in being a really great educator. It's understanding what is my bias,
Yeah. So,
understanding your why. Why do I
yeah.
feel this way
So I'm
about
conscious
this
of the
thing?
time, and because I've already uh, yelled today in the podcast, some people have already run away. But those who are here,
Mm.
um, because I'm conscious of the time, I want to
Mm.
end this with what you're talking about. And
Mm.
I call it critical reflection.
Mm.
And I also call it post structuralism. The structure that you had was 4 o'clock XYZ, three quarter
Mm-hmm.
past three ABC. In classroom, we have a structure. On Thursday, this happens. Friday, this happens. In long day care, we have the same. Early years
Mm.
learning, I should say. Um, and what we are is that when we are advocate, we critically reflect. Now, critical reflection is not done necessarily alone, but because sometimes we rather just get through the day.
Mm,
So when other educators come in, or I may say other advocates or other social agents, and we critically reflect on our ways of being and also document what's going on, what's working, what's not working. At times, we might be able to come up with a structure that we can shift, and then we can again report back to say, hey, since I've given that banana or apple after 4 o'clock, not all life challenges, but some of them are solved. But it's not just about providing that food or providing that learning experience or changing that learning experience. We started this podcast with the word connection, and I'm going to kind of end that with it. When a child sees you making an effort, you may not have solutions to everything, but you are making an effort. What does it do to the connection that you have with the child?
mm,
If you made an effort on Monday and on Tuesday, but you are not in control of all factors, social, psychological, weather patterns, so you couldn't provide them, but you tried. On Wednesday, the child is going to talk to you differently. And maybe
mm,
the child, for the first time, may talk to you, and you might have some children voices then.
mm.
So, wrapping up with some of the key points, and I just want to get your view on it when I share my point and then see if missed any. What constitutes children voices? Many things.
Mhm,
Verbal, nonverbal, behavioral, psychological, social, philosophical, you name it.
mhm,
How do we capture it? One of the major ones we saw was the bias the listener has. Okay, so that's the number one. And the last one was what do we do with it, and what are the strategies? Strategies being the parliament, but also working on our connection.
mm,
And why do we do that? We do that because we provide space for social agents to impact the society that we are living in,
mm,
which is you and me and children. And I think that are 4 good points.
mm.
I mean, good points. I'm just being very humble today. Really good points. Sorry. Helen, anything that I've missed?
No, I think the only one I'll just add because I just wrote it down is that children's voices without advocacy, what is the point?
Hmm.
So,
Maybe that should be the heading of the podcast, but hey.
I'll note
Well,
that down.
look, we are recording this after 6 p.m. on
Mhm.
what's the day? Tuesday?
Tuesday today.
Tuesday. I hope that people who listen to these podcasts enjoy listening to it. Keep giving us feedback. I get a lot of phone calls to say you guys are doing really well, so that's nice. No pressure. You don't have to call me. You can text me also. Go to our page, We Belong Education, Facebook at To We Belong, Instagram, LinkedIn
Mm,
also has We Belong Education, and then we also have Helen with We Belong on Instagram. So yeah, like the page, subscribe to it, or share with the people that you know. Helen, I'm gonna say goodbye. You have anything else to say? I just want to make sure that I
no,
listen to your voice. Okay, good.
don't
Well,
want to start another rant off, so I'm just going to be quiet.
okay, I'll hold on to the next episode. Look after yourself and the people you love. From the team of We Belong Education, it's a goodbye.
See you later.